Welcome to Notability, specifically figures in more detail. The goals for this tutorial are how to create a figure, line color and fill, stroke and borders, changing line width, transparency, and cropping the figure. Let's start this tutorial about more detail with figures by clicking on an existing note. The whole purpose of this particular tutorial is to learn more about using figures in detail. So I'm going to click on the plus sign in the upper right hand corner, and I'm going to click on the figure icon. As in the previous tutorial, a new screen will appear. Let's start off in our drawing tool, which is this little squiggly line in the upper left hand corner. The first thing that I'm going to do is change the color of the line. So to change the color of the line, I'm going to tap on this black box with the red slash going through it, and I'll notice a number of different colors that appear. When you're in the drawing app, you really can only work with stroke. The fill icon is more for when you're working with a shape and filling in the inside of a shape with a different color. Right now, my line color is in black, so I'm going to change it into blue. When I change it into blue, before I can write it on the screen, I've got to tap on the box with the red slash going through it again. Then I can start drawing on my screen. So the border around that particular box tells me what color I'm using. So I can tap on that icon again and change my color over into dark green. I'm going to tap on the icon again, and I can see one more time that I have green going on there. Couple more things in this icon that you should be aware of. If you look at the very bottom, underneath the colors, you see the word alpha, a blue line and a gray box. That basically tells you the transparency of the line. This slide allows you to determine the transparency of your line. So if the box is all the way over to the right, as you can see, there's no transparency. But if I was to move that gray box towards the middle of the line, the transparency of my line would be different. So I'm going to click on the icon again, and I'm going to draw in green. And as you can see, it's not as dark as my original. If we want to get a little more transparent, we move it over, tap on the icon again, and we can see that it's even a lighter green. So now I'm going to click back, I'm going to move it over, and let's switch line colors again. Let's switch over to red. With this red color, I'm going to looking at changing the width of the line. So I'm going to tap the blue dot in the toolbar, and again we see a line with a gray box. Moving the location of the gray box will change the width of the line. When I draw now, I have a very fine line. If I tap on that small blue dot and I move the gray box up, I can see that the width of my dot is getting larger. Tap on that blue dot again, and I have a much thicker line. So that blue dot determines the width of your line that you're drawing on the screen. Now let's look at straight lines. And instead of a free moving line, I now have straight lines. So I can go like this, and this, and this. And once I've written these on the screen, I can't move them again unless I completely delete them by tapping the undo button. So I can tap this undo button, the line is removed, I can create a different line. So that's one thing to realize. The same features that we saw for the free drawing line also applies to our straight lines. So I can change my color. Maybe I want purple now. Maybe I want it just not as dark of a line, and I can make my line a little smaller in diameter. So I'm going to tap on that blue dot, and now there's another line going through like that. Now let's start looking at shapes. Notice that there's 3 different shapes that I can use here: the square, the circle, and the triangle. Let's start out by drawing a square. Before I draw this square, I want to determine color. With this square, let's say that I have a blue fill color. Now I have a completely filled blue square. If I tap on stroke now, this determines my border. So let's have a dark blue border. Just like we saw with the lines, we can control the transparency of both the border and the fill. For this square, I'm going to have a thick dark blue line and the transparency of my fill about halfway through. The last thing I'm going to do before I draw my square is I'm going to say that I'm going to have a very thick border. So that fill icon shows me what my square should look like. So I'm going to tap on the blue dot to get rid of that, and now I can just start drawing my squares. that and we can see the transparency of them. Let's do a different shape. For this circle, I am going to have a yellow fill color, let's say with no transparency. I am going to do an orange border, and let's have not as solid, and let's do a thinner border around the circle. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to tap on my screen and drag so I can make really big ones, really small ones. So that's an example there of a difference in border, a difference in fill color, and a difference in transparency. When there's no transparency, obviously you're not going to see anything of the blocks behind them. Let's do one more example with triangles. For this triangle, I'm going to have a red fill. Let's make this in the middle. Let's have a border that is bright green, and we'll have no transparency on that. And for our border, that's a good size. So let's see what that looks like. So I can go like this. I can put one up here. There's a whole range of possibilities of what you could do with this particular feature and how you can add it to your existing notes. And of course, at any time, you can always crop your picture by sliding the blue dots in to make it fit to whatever size you need it to be. So now you know a little bit more about how to use figures in detail in Notability.